Hey, it's me, Raika. Today we're going to have a look at Skreg, the Cunning from the Mauler faction. Now, this here wears plate-based gear, is part of the tank class, and his primary role is to provide a significant amount of secondary utility for any hero that invades the enemy lines. So let's have a look at his skills. His ultimate ability, Beast of Burden. Now, all of these abilities over here revolve around Skreg, which is the little NPC character right over here, and his Iron Jaw, which is this massive beast which will charge across the battlefield. So let's begin. Skreg cannot be launched into the air nor knocked back when using this skill. Skreg rides his Iron Jaw, this is the big beast, during which he consumes 80 energy points every second up until all of his energy is exhausted. When mounting, Skreg gains immunity to control effects, and his attack rating is increased by 30%. Skreg's normal attacks will also deal damage twice and knock down enemy targets. Level 2, energy expenditure reduced to 60 energy points per second. The level 3, attack rating buff is increased to 50% from 30%. His next ability, Brute Force. The Iron Jaw assists Skreg in attacking his enemies by knocking them into the air and dealing damage to a small amount of enemies. If the enemy is successfully knocked into the air, Skreg will also initiate a 3-stage attack against them. So this attack will do 140% damage to the enemies. The level 2, while mounting, Skreg beats his drum and rides his Iron Jaw into nearby enemies, dealing 110% damage to multiple times to them, also causing them to be knocked back. The level 3 and 4 increase this damage all the way to 160%. His next ability, Iron Skin. Enemies deal less damage to Skreg the closer they get to him. Damage reduction is at its maximum when enemies are within Skreg's striking range. So this is melee distance. Damage received can be reduced up to 40%. Now the level 2 and 3 increase this damage reduction even further up to 60%. So if you can invade the enemy lines or you can group the enemies together, you'll be able to get this damage reduction near permanent when you have Skreg in the battle over here. And the 30 engravings, when enemies are within striking range of Skreg and dealing damage to him, they will lose 8 haste points for 3 seconds. Skill can be stacked up to 3 times. So this is 24 points of haste reduction that Skreg can apply to the enemy. His next ability, Stampede. Every 8 seconds, an Iron Jaw appears and charges towards the enemy closest to the allied side of the battlefield, knocking back and stunning them and any other enemies in its path, dealing 150% damage to them. So this is a little Skreg that will be running across the battlefield and will complete all of these particular buffs and debuffs to the enemy and allies as well. Now level 2 and 3 increase the damage all the way to 180%, and the 60 engravings. This skill is triggered every 6 seconds. So let's have a look at his signature item. Now he is built around his signature item and his furniture, as they synergize extremely well with any invade heroes that are part of your team. Now when you unlock Beast Rider, the skill Beast of Burden, which is his ultimate, will no longer drain energy for the first 5 seconds after each time it is used. The level 10 only requires 500 energy points to activate the ultimate skill for the first time. The 20 unlock, energy that is recovered when injured is increased by 50%, and the 30 signature item unlock only requires 200 energy points to activate the ultimate for the first time. So as we can see, this synergizes extremely well with the unlock and the 30 signature item unlock. So what this means is, as soon as Skreg walks onto battle, he can just gain a bit of energy and immediately start charging into the enemy lines and providing buffs for your allies and debuffs for the enemies. So let's have a look at his furniture. Now this is his bread and butter right over here. When you unlock Vanguards of Pain, the 3 out of 3, all allied heroes within the enemy half of the battlefield have their attack rating increased by 20% and also receive 25% less damage from enemy attacks. Now, why is this particular 3 out of 3 furniture unlock important. When an enemy hero is in the enemy half and you have this unlocked, even if the entire team dies and the allied hero still remains in the enemy half, this buff will be permanently activated, meaning you will permanently have a 20% attack rating increase and 25% less damage. So the more allies that can be pushed into the enemy half will have this buff as a permanent stat increase to themselves. And the 9 out of 9, allies heroes recover 100 energy points after every 3 seconds in the enemy half of battle. Now, this requires Skreg to be alive and for the allied hero to be in the enemy half for this particular buff to be activated as well. So let's have a look at how he does in battle. So we're going to start off with the wooden trading dummy. So as we can see over here, there's this little iron jaw that runs across the battlefield and knocks back enemies as it goes through them. As we can see, this is the other little Skreg, once again walking across the battlefield. There's the knock up and the stun. There we go. As we can see, this little Skreg knock back the enemy. So this is the slash and stab that this Skreg is doing. So let's have a look at his charge mechanic. Now he'll be facing the mage over here. Now, as we can see, he cannot be controlled while he's in this particular state. And he also gains that extra 50% attack rating buff when he's in this state over here. As we can see, he's charging once again. And he's slowly draining energy. So as we can see, this energy is being drained. However, if he's able to get a kill or get some energy recovery, this will further allow him to charge continuously as the battle progresses. So let's have a look at how he does at a much higher level deficit. Now this over here is a 140 level deficit, and as you can see from this particular battle, he did a massive amount of damage when compared to other damage dealers as well, such as Anasta over here, and Tandra, and Naruko over here. In addition, he was also able to tank a lot of damage that was intended for his team, and in addition, all of these heroes here have an invade-like capacity in order to benefit from Skreg's buff. So Skreg will knock all the enemies back, and this will essentially push your allies, forcing your allies to move into the enemy half and allowing Skreg to buff all of his allies. So let's have a look at how he does. Now there is no visual clarification of when your ally is or is not in the enemy half, so you simply have to draw a line in the middle, and if the allied hero passes this particular line, then they will gain the benefits of their energy recovery. So as we can see from my allied heroes, all of them are gaining energy extremely quickly because of Skreg's buffs. Now as we can see, he will continually stampede with his ultimate, and because of his allies who also are providing a bit of energy and recovery, Skreg is able to deal massive amounts of damage and knock back enemies. Now, because Skreg is immune, this will essentially allow him to distract enemies as they cannot control him, forcing your allies to essentially follow Skreg into battle as they claim victory over the enemy. So what is the minimum investment that I would recommend into this allied hero? Now, I would highly recommend getting at least 20 signature items. The 30 signature items simply allow him to be more effective and get on his mount much more quickly. This gives him that immunity to control. However, this is not needed whatsoever. Now, I would also highly recommend getting his 9 out of 9 furniture. This is extremely powerful with any invade-based team, both in Nightmare Corridor, Cursed Realm, Campaign, Mauler Tower, and various other game modes. This hero is extremely strong with any invade-based team. Now, the reason I got engravings for him is so that he can survive longer. Now, this hero, if the enemies are not standing directly close to him, he does not benefit from his damage reduction of 60%. So this extra engravings simply give him that extra survivability so that he can survive long enough to provide those necessary buffs for his allies so they can start ramping up and start one-shotting the enemies one at a time.